So, welcome everyone to Satsang today. Namaste. There is a deep peace and quiet. Apparently it's Satsang today. A deep peace and quiet that's available in this moment. A deep silence and rest. And that silence, that rest, that deep quietness is our essential nature. It is really what we are. And when we rest in it, then we're going to be able to live from a very different place, a different experience. It's not really an experience, it's always here. But there isn't a word, at least as far as I'm aware. If anybody knows of one, please do tell me, for a constant experience, that which is not an experience. And it's ongoing and ever present. So today I wanted to look at really how to access that in the most direct way, the most immediate way, either through, we've done some self-inquiry recently, we've done some meditation, done some other ways to recognize what we really are. Today I wanted to approach it from a different perspective, to really look at the essence of what our essential nature is. And it is, first and foremost, a place, a state, a condition, a constant experience that we cannot really describe, which is kind of funny, really, because non-duality teachers spend their entire lives trying to explain and describe, or at least point to something, to say something that might inspire you to go beyond the mind and into what you already are. So that mind is just something that's happening inside you and not to you. So what's the fastest way then out of suffering, out of the mind? Because mind really is the suffering when we listen to it, at least when we believe it. Well, your real nature, what you essentially are, this deep quiet and rest, is before any definition at all, before any concept, before any self-definition, you already exist. You already are. You're here right now. And what does it mean to be here without any definition? What is the non-dual self? What really is that? And it's simply, non-dual means not two. It means one. It means the oneness where everything is inclusive and included, where every possibility is present inside you, and yet you haven't taken any of those yet. You don't want to define yourself. We can do this right now to access this quiet, open space that we really are. Moving beyond the duality into non-duality. There's nothing wrong with duality. It's where all the definitions and opposites are. Form and formless, rich and poor, big and small, hot and cold, awakened, unawakened, worthy, unworthy, arrived or still traveling. And it goes on and on and on. And when we define ourselves as any of these, then we have to keep experiencing the other. So you can show up as the self or the ego, the mind, or you can show up as freedom. You can show up as worthy or unworthy. You can show up as totally allowing or totally resisting. You can show up form or formless. You know all these opposites. You've played with them for a very long time, a really long time. What is it like to just step outside of those? Let the manifestation play in all of these concepts in you. Stay here before duality. Don't define yourself at all. Just this basic sense of being here, just this I sense, with no attempt at all to define what comes after I. Don't know what I is. Don't want to know what I is. I is here. Whatever it is, it's here. You're here. This place, placeless place before duality, is home. It is your essential self. And from out of you, out of this place, all dualities can play, all opposites. Good and bad and wanted and not wanted. Reality and illusion. Liberation, bondage. All of those are happening after you, in front of you. You're watching all of those opposites. And we're just not holding on to any self-definition here. Just the sense of I. You notice how it feels in your body when you don't put anything else on the end of this. Just I. Or I am, if you like. You are here, you do exist, but we're not going to define anything else. We're not even going to define yourself as this, whatever this is. This that's here. Just the sense of I. What does that feel like? When you're not limiting it, forcing it through a concept, what does I feel like? Just is. Tasting that freedom of a lack of self-definition. I don't know what I am. And I really don't want to know. Let's not even touch the concepts like timeless and formless and boundless, infinite, eternal. Because to touch upon those, we have to taste their opposite too, finite and limited and bound. We're just going to hang out here as this place before duality, inclusive of all dualities appearing as the world. But resting here before all that, before anything, just resting here. Not two, not the opposites, before the opposites. Totally unknown. Can you remain a complete mystery to yourself? And what does that feel like? To your mind, it might be scary. Shaky ground, nowhere to stand. All of our failures and successes on our spiritual journey just wiped away here. The whole spiritual journey itself, absent here. Nowhere to head towards, nothing to move away from. Not even free or bound in this moment, just this moment. Just really feeling that, resting here. And as soon as you pick up a concept, an idea, a definition, you can just notice that and let it go. Oh, this is what awareness is. This is what the self is. Just let that go. I'd like to stay here. Let that go too. I want to go deeper into this. Suggest that you're not already. Let that go too. I can't stay like this all the time. You are this. So let that one go too. Everything we ever feel that we've known has never actually been true about us, about you. All self-definition can be discarded. Your mind can still use concepts. You can still use those when you need to, but let's not hold on to them. Let's not be sure of anything at all. I don't know what I am. I don't know what you are. I don't know what this is. I don't know what anything is. I don't know if there's anywhere to get to or anywhere that I've journeyed from. I don't know anything about achieving anything or reaching anything. I don't know of anything that I need to let go of or to gain or attain. There is nothing for me to do, have, or become. You are complete mystery to me. Beyond all definition and concepts and duality, already completely free, just becoming more and more comfortable without any place to stand. The moment you pick some self-definition, you begin to feel restricted, constricted, limited. You can show up as a human being, as all of existence, as nothing at all. And none of those definitions limit you. Maybe there is no final answer to who you really are, to what you really are. Can you accept that you'll never know yourself? How can you ever come to understand this beautiful mystery that you are? And your mind will try to find a way to understand. That's what it does. It'll think about you from every angle it can. And you can let that happen. You can just rest here. Don't pick anything up. And if any fear arises in this place before definition, that's just your mind which is used to the familiar. Your mind is used to the known and the familiar. It thinks that we're going into new territory in the unknown, the unfamiliar. It thinks that you're becoming that, your mind. But you already are that. This is you in your natural state. And if you've picked up any idea about yourself, or if you're thinking about the rest of your day, if you are thinking about trying to stay like this, let's just let that go. Not pushing thoughts away, we're just not holding on to them. There's no thought that can really land here. How would you think about the indescribable, ineffable nature of you? Beyond existence and non-existence. You can show up both of those ways, and yet you're neither. Beyond form and formless. You can show up both of those ways, not limited to either. Beyond life and death, and in between. Not limited by any of those. Beyond time and timeless. Beyond limited and unlimited, and yet inclusive of both. You can show up both of those ways. In a way, this real self is the simplest of all. It's not a far off place. It's immediately here right now. Always accessible by discarding self-definition. I'm not happy or sad. I'm not asleep or awake. I'm not hot or cold. I'm not alive or dead. I'm not a man or a woman. I'm not bound or free. I'm not the self and I'm not the ego either. I'm not merged or separated. I don't understand reality or illusion. I can't resist or transcend. I'm not doing or not doing. I'm not stillness or movement. I'm not limited to silence or sound. I'm not one, two, billions, or none. Each one of us will have our own definitions. I don't feel good enough I don't feel worthy of awakening. I don't feel ready. I don't feel brave enough. And if we discard those right now, if we don't hold on to anything, whatever we hold on to, we take the shape of. Whatever self-definitions we have, we will experience. And the opposite. It'll cycle around and around. Worthy, unworthy. Ready, not ready. Awakened, not awakened. Every concept, every self-definition is simply a lens that you're looking through. And you can put those down right now and know absolutely nothing. So at first for me, this felt scary and unfamiliar. A little risky, having nowhere to stand. Nothing to point to and say, this is what I am. Eventually discarding words even like awareness and silence, and consciousness and presence, self and not self. Just absolutely empty. Just watching the manifestation move, take shapes. Those shapes are disappearing and appearing constantly. I don't know what they are, because I don't know what I am. If I am the unknown, then anything that I give birth to is also unknown. What if the only language you had ever learnt was I? Just this I, not even you and I, just I. Everything you looked at, everything you experienced, everything you tasted, the only thing you could label it with is I. What would your experience be like? What would your life be like? Of course, in the appearance of duality in the world, we have to use you and me and this and that, and hot and cold when we speak. But if you like what we've tasted today, you can stay in this I-ness. Stay in this oneness. This place before duality. Even as your mouth says, you and me, and now and then, today and tomorrow and yesterday. 2, 3, 4, 5 billions. Internally, just staying as this I that knows nothing about anything. Trusting your mind and your body to navigate themselves through the world quite efficiently. Everything that we think we know anyway isn't really worth that much. It's not really that risky to not hold on to it, as your life really functioned all that well anyway by knowing lots of stuff about yourself and everyone else. For me, not so much. When I actually looked at my experience, the more I knew about myself, even when I knew I was the self, infinite self, still didn't go so well. Had to experience being the finite, limited self too. The someone, the person. So only this, only letting go of all definition, did my life actually begin to flow and function. And quite effortlessly. We're only coming back really to what's always been true anyway. We've never been doing anything. Or we've been doing everything, the whole cosmos. We're just telling the truth here, aren't we, really? So I hope you deeply tasted what it's like to be unknown, what it's like to live as the mystery. And it just becomes a habit, that just noticing your body tells you when you've picked up some self-definition. And then it feels really good or really bad. You can just check in, what am I holding on to? And you can just drop that again. So I'll read a question that's been sent in over email. If you would like to ask anything, feel free to raise your hand here on Zoom. I'll come to you in a minute. This first question says, I've been feeling a huge amount of anxiety lately. Prior to that, a lot of anger bubbles up, and prior to that, I felt depression. Prior to that was anxiety. It's all been very intense. I think I might be in the early stages of the perimenopause, but I wonder if all of these satsangs I'm attending and YouTube videos I'm watching is somehow shifting some repressed emotions within me. A lot of the anger has been linked to my childhood and my relationship with my mother, who was, is very narcissistic. I find that when I attend satsangs or watch YouTube videos, I feel calm, aligned, and connected. When I interact with my husband, who has no interest in awakening, or others in daily life, I find I'm extremely sensitive and have massive somatic and emotional reactions at their abrasiveness, defensiveness, and so on. Before becoming interested in non-duality, I wasn't so sensitive. Did you go through anything like this on your awakening journey? If so, do you have any advice? Thanks. So, so here are all the revolving stages of the separate sense of someone, right? Depression, anxiety, and then before that anger, and then before that depression, and before that anxiety again. Around and around it goes. Because of this deep sense of feeling that we know who we are. And when we know who we are, then we're really magnetically attractive to all these thoughts. And these thoughts are believed. They have to be believed as a someone, as a separate being. And then our experiences correspond to that. So absolutely, yes. There was a period where I felt like I was living two very different lives. There was my spiritual life where I was peaceful and free and calm and sometimes blissful and increasingly joyful and all those good things that I really had wanted for quite some time. And that was about half an hour a day, maybe with brief periods like nanoseconds later in the day. So I'd do my meditation. And then there was the rest of my life. My kids, my siblings, my parents, my work, my fill in the blank, because I didn't always do this. And that was a very, very opposite experience. It was fear, shame, anger, depression, all the things you said here. And most of all, perhaps for quite some time, feeling completely alien to the rest of humanity, feeling like I was a complete alien to the rest of humanity. A total inability to understand or even want to understand and relate to someone who wasn't on the path. Or at some point, a total arrogance of unwillingness to relate to anyone who wasn't as awakened as I was. That was the worst self-definition of all. I held on to that one for a long time, and it was so excruciatingly painful. I am there now. I am awakened now. Because I wanted some victory after a long imagined journey, right? I wanted some kind of victory. So I was feeling really awakened and, you know, having this beautiful spiritual life, but deeply experiencing the opposite, totally unable to connect with anyone else. And even if they were other awakened beings that I accidentally came across, I was always comparing myself to them anyway. Are they more awakened than I am? Am I less awakened or more awakened than them? Which is kind of hilarious now, but it was really excruciating, painful, and quite depressing, and this endless cycle of comparison. So, and it seemed like you said massive somatic and emotional reactions at their abrasiveness. I remember that kind of feeling overwhelmed and swamped and all of that by this mass illusion that was going on around me still. And I realized eventually that I was creating a sustaining sense of opposites inside me still feeling divided. And it was all my own doing, of course. That when I separate reality into those that are interested in reality and those that are still interested in the illusion, or when I make one better and one worse, or wanted and not wanted, then I have to keep experiencing both. And it wasn't just experiencing both, it was really experiencing this awakened state in meditation, really experiencing the other side of it, being really restricted and conflicted and assailed by lots of things and people. The best that humanity has to offer and the worst. And endlessly around and around in this cycle. But at the core of all of this is a you and everyone else, isn't there? Can you feel this? There's these two essential states. When I'm in my spiritual life, and then when I go and meet everyone else. When I'm on my own, watching YouTube videos or attending Satsangs, I feel this way. And then when I go back out into the world as such, which can be literally in my own house with my spouse and kids and all the rest, then everyone's suddenly pushing buttons. Can you feel that inside? But if you didn't define those two, what if you just stepped away from that self-definition? And then you'll find that you can enjoy this kind of awakened, peaceful lack of definition of yourself. And you'll also be able to apply that to everyone else around you. You won't want to define them either. Because I know this that you've written, I understand it. But at the bottom of this is, I know who my husband is. Who you've put here, when I interact with my husband who has no interest in awakening. If you keep holding on to that, I'm not saying he's going to immediately go, you know what, I'm going to join Satsang with you. Maybe he will, I don't know. But if you just meet him as the mystery, he is the mystery too, right? If you don't hold on to anything about him or anyone else, like you've done for yourself while you're watching this, you're giving them the most beautiful gift ever, and you'll stay in your peace too. You won't ever seem to lose that then. So we're only suffering from what we think we know about ourselves or others. And of course, you want your husband and yourself to kind of align more. And the only way to do that is to forget what you think you know, because that's what you're experiencing. Dividing the world into two camps, interested in this and not interested in this. And of course, you might feel more of a resonance with people that you might meet in satsang. But the deepest, richest not knowing is where you can not know anything about anyone ever. The person at the supermarket, the school teacher, when you take your kids to school, other parents, your boss. Can you not know anything about your boss? So I hope that helps. Okay, we'll go to Lofter.
Hello.
Hi.
Yeah, hi. I want to share a little bit something that is very exciting, and it's, as it happens, very much in line with what you've been saying during the satsang. And I made a very strange discovery the other day, and that discovery has since then turned into a curiosity, and this curiosity then into an obsession, I would say. Yeah. And what happened was that a few days ago, I was thinking about this word "I." Yeah, it's the most common word in every language, and I've said it. I can honestly say millions of times in my life. And then the other day, I thought, a very strange word, isn't it? And I thought, I have no idea what it means. I have no idea what it points to.
And we've been totally convinced that we do know.
Yeah, it's like I always assumed that I knew, so I just glanced over it. But then just, I mean, I'm now I'm saying it. I've already said it 15 times in this very conversation, and somehow it hit me. I have no idea what it points to.
And how did you feel when you realized that?
It was very exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very exciting. But since then, I've had waves of both panic and relief alternating.
Yeah.
But yeah, very exciting stuff.
And it's just mind, isn't it? Mind saying, oh, that's kind of scary. But then it's also kind of freeing, says mind, when I don't know. But when I do know, I feel safer. But no, wait, I want to be. So you're just watching this back and forth going on. And whether that goes on or not, you know now, you've seen, I don't have a clue what I is. And therefore, I don't know what not I is. I can't point to anything and say not I if I don't know what I is. Not this, not me. Well, how can I say that if I don't know what I really is?
And how can I claim to know anything if I don't know this basic thing?
Yeah. The I that claims to know, we don't even know what that is. Yeah.
So yeah. I just
Best
wanted to share that.
obsession ever. Best obsession ever. This.
Yeah, it's great. And then when I align my meditation, I can think about nothing else than this because it's just so much fun.
Yeah. And it will never stop delivering. It will never. Every time you look at this, you go deeper into the mystery of I, whatever I is. I still haven't found that out. But there's a lack of want. I wouldn't even want a final answer anyway. Can you imagine now if you had some final answer to what you are? It would just be boring, wouldn't it? And it also would be untrue.
Who could have thought that not knowing something could be this exciting?
And even to get to a point as a human being where you don't want to know. I'll experience it right now. I'll find out that way. This is what I am right now. This, whatever this is. That's about as much as I want to know, right? Right now, I is this conversation or whatever is going on. Even that's a bit too much to describe ourselves.
It's
Just
funny
play
when I had this discovery, I became obsessed, like I told you. I even went on Wikipedia to try to find out what Wikipedia said about this word. And it's funny because Wikipedia says everything about this word except what it is.
Yeah. Because you literally cannot define it. Or you'd have to have infinite number of definitions because I means something different to everyone, doesn't it? If we're looking in the world of definitions. And it's the shortest word, isn't it? And yet it's the most powerful thing. I. And we've always gone right past it. We've skipped right past it into I am a man or a woman or English or whatever. I'm awakened or I'm still stuck in ego or whatever. It's just so nice to just chill out before any of that.
Why isn't this being talked about more? It's a basic thing.
Every non-dual teacher is saying this in every which way they can, constantly.
Absolutely true. I just wasn't listening before.
Well, something was listening. Mind wasn't interested, but something was listening. Otherwise, we won't be having this conversation right now, would we? Something was getting through. There doesn't seem to be any progress, no progress, because we're measuring progress from how much my mind understands this. And then all of a sudden, sideways of the mind, in other news, the self just wakes up. Oh, I don't know what I is. Okay, then, that's done. Yeah. And mind's going, what? What just happened? Yeah. I've got no clue.
Yeah. It's the mind always wants something to chew on, and there's nothing more delicious than this thing.
Yeah. Best meal ever. It'll chew on it and chew on it and chew on it infinitely. And it's joyful that. There's nothing wrong with thinking about this, is there? Nothing wrong with thinking in general, but this is the best thing to think about if you're going to think about anything. What's it like to not know what I am, actually? After eons in different bodies of self-definition, finally, I'm admitting the truth that I don't know. Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. Okay, Lena?
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Helen. Helen, so beautiful message you gave. I absolutely love it. And the laughter you also added to this beautiful message. And I really don't want to, I feel it so light in my heart. My question would be a little bit heavy, but
Okay.
but I actually look for this lightness. I look for this beauty, what you described. And because I'm actually asking for your help to release, it's what I feel, the last fear in me. Why I'm saying the last, because for 2 years I was listening different teachers, and your teaching very resonate with me. I don't afraid, for example, to be born in next life animal or a tree or a frog. It doesn't matter. I had a couple of visions when I did Tai Chi and Qigong, and I know that it's the reality because it was so unexpected. While I was meditating, I was a tree, and I couldn't realize what is that, who am I? And I just felt a pure joy. And I felt like my legs, my two toenails, and my hands, my palms are growing. I felt it, but I didn't know who am I. And then it's like was a lightning. I'm a tree. And I didn't see anything. And I felt that joy. So I know animals and plants have pure joy. So that's fine. What my fear? How people could manifest, and let's go to some extreme degree that I would that you would understand what I mean. How people could manifest, for example, physical torture, like torture, even sickness from childhood is bad, right? When children are born sick with very deep sickness, but it's kind of, I understand, but I don't understand how people could manifest torture. For example, let's take World War II in Russia, when millions of people were tortured. How did it happen that right away so many people did it, and how could you manifest? Okay, I can afraid, I understand, but torture, to me, it's kind of, I don't understand it. And it's, I want to fly with you, with what you said, with laughter. I want to laugh, fly, but it's holding me as a fear. How could it happen? I don't want to have experience physical, unbelievable pain if it could happen. Thank you very much.
If we look at any, you've used that example there, but if we look at any human behavior that is harmful to other beings, any at all, or even to ourselves, it could be to doing something to one other being or to a whole group or a whole multitude of beings, then that behavior is coming, it's an expression of the, wherever the place that being that's perpetuating that behavior is hanging out in terms of their own consciousness. So each one of us is that light, that joy, that unknown freedom, that indefinable place, as we were saying. And each individual, not separate, but each individual is allowing that light to shine through them to whatever degree they've been able to let go of ideas about themselves. So the infinite being is experiencing itself everywhere. It's all of these human incarnations, all at the same time. It's being a tree, it's being a frog, it's being a human being, it's being everything all at once. And in those other forms like trees and frogs, and it doesn't have this complicated sense of duality. It has a very basic sense of me and you. So a sense of, in a frog, it has a sense of danger or something like an instinct, we could call it. But as a human being, it goes deeply into this world of opposites. And the first set of opposites is what we were just talking about, I and you. It really believes as a human being in this is me and this is not me. You know, you're separate to me, and that becomes such a real experience, a real full-on three-dimensional powerful experience, because it's the infinite being experiencing itself as a separate limited being. So anything that it experiences is really, really, really true. So anything it does from that place of separation only reinforces the idea that it's a separate being. And it begins to feel inherent in this idea that you're separate and alone in the world is fear. I was born, and at some point I'm going to die or cease to exist somehow. And also inherent in the idea that we're separate and alone in the world is this idea of everything else, everyone else. There's a whole human race out there that's separate to me, that I have no control over at all. Some of those human beings would wish me well, some completely the opposite. So as soon as we descend into thoughts and opposites, we're living in constant background or foreground fear, constant. What we do to avoid that is different for every human being, to avoid looking at that. And when we believe really that we're a separate being, we cannot resolve that, because this me and other, this core duality, me and everything else, other else, separate to me, keeps being constantly reinforced when I interact with anyone else. When I speak to someone else, I reinforce a sense of me here and them there. When I fall in love in a relationship, or when I break up with someone, or when I go see my siblings or talk to my parents, all of it, everything we ever do as a separate human being reinforces, I'm here, you're there. And this fear is inherent in that. And how we cope with that fear is different for each one of us. For some of us, like here, we're trying to transcend that fear and separation. For other beings, they might try to accumulate things in their life. The more possessions I have, the safer I am, the more money I have, etc. And for some beings, when that light of the truth is really veiled by lots of thoughts, lots of heavy thoughts, then it tries to feel safer by controlling other beings, having power over other beings. And it will go to some extraordinary lengths when it thinks it's separate to feel safe. And in the lowest expression of human behavior, it will manifest things like this. We've seen time and time again in human history what happens when the self really feels very frightened as a separate, limited being and tries to control other beings. And then if someone seems to have a good idea how to feel safe, a lot of other human beings join into that group, because there's safety there in numbers. People think if this person's attracted a large group of beings, they must be right, actually, is the conclusion a lot of other beings make. And as soon as that one being is right, there's a whole other group that are wrong. And we try to get rid of those ones that are wrong and stay with those ones that are right. Here's another core duality. This is what is good and I should follow, and this is what is wrong and I should try to eliminate from the world. And we've been down that road many, many times as a species, haven't we? So there is no cure to that from that place of separation, because it's a self-reinforcing illusion that just continues over and over and over. And the more I feel in control and powerful and all of that, I'll feel temporarily safer, but it hasn't done anything to actually undo this core illusion. So I keep needing more of those things, more power, more money, more control, more whatever, again and again, more followers to tell me, to reinforce that I'm right and all of that. And from that place, the self really believes that what it's doing is right and justified. But by that point, the light that's allowed to shine through that body-mind vehicle that's doing those actions is so diminished, barely enough to keep that human body alive. So you get a dimmer switch, really powerful light shining through a being who's not defining themselves at all. And then you turn down that dimmer switch as you add more and more thoughts. This is my cause. This is what I believe in. This is what I feel is the right human being. And it's on and on and on in front of this. And by the time you actually allow any light through that, it's tiny. That's what we call evil. That's what we call narcissistic. That's what we call self-centered. All of that, isn't it? It's a whole spectrum of human behavior, from the highest selfless activity to the most selfish, self-centered, even downright dangerous to the rest of humanity. What's the way out of that then? What's the antidote to that? And it's really what we've been talking about today. How can I make sure, first of all, that I'm safe from that kind of activity and that everyone else is safe from that kind of activity? And it only takes one human being to who absolutely refuses to believe in any separation, any self-definition at all, to stop the worst of human behaviors from happening across the whole planet. And we've seen people like that, Krishna and Christ and the Buddha and many other beautiful sages. And when more than one human being does that, then we're looking at the rest of human beings being influenced and actually unable to do anything like that. When 1% of humanity refuses to define themselves, the whole planet changes overnight. And we are, so I don't want to leave this on a bleak picture. We are approaching that 1%. And I don't mean we have to, like 1% of all humanity completely awaken to truth. Just 1% of humanity that wants to actually follow their heart or something like that. Or 10% of human beings who would just like to step away from their mind. That's enough. That would do it too. So if you think about the number of satsangs that are going on around the world like this right now, not right now, but spiritual groups, teachers, teachings, all of it, the amount of meditation classes and everything that's going on, I think we're, well on our way to that. It's not outside of our control at all what someone else is doing across the other side of the planet, because the influence of the self, the infinite self, when it realizes itself to be infinite, transcends all time and space. So you having this question and asking it has made it that much harder for everyone else to be mean to each other, and just a little bit easier for everyone else to be kinder to each other and themselves. And every being that comes out, every body, mind, vehicle that wakes up to the truth makes it easier. It's getting exponentially easier each time every person comes out of illusion, every seeming separate being. I don't know if that touches inside what you were feeling. Hopefully it goes some way to calm that inside.
Yes, it was when I kind of felt relief. It's up to me to which group to join.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, I completely understand that. I know that we are building our future, our karma with every minute with our thoughts. It's how you were saying, thoughts, emotions, like an indicator, and then manifestation.
Yeah.
Is there any, just the last drop, innocent victims? Because we are a product also collective mind. And there is any innocent victim. For example, I know there is some situation when saints in revolution, 100 years ago, but it does come to my mind as an example, who devoted whole life to God. And to me, God, the universe, what we are talking, it's all the same. They were serving God, but they were brutally killed. How did it happen?
When when you've realized fully the nature of your being to be infinite, then some beings will choose to discard their body. Then, whichever way that happens, is some beings choose to keep a hold of their body, and that's entirely the choice of that individual at that point. There isn't really a collective mind. You use that word collective mind. There's only one mind. And whichever way it's expressing itself through all of these bodies is different depending on what that being is valuing inside, what self-definition they're valuing at that point. There isn't really any innocent victims, and there isn't really any guilty perpetrators also. If we hold on to either one of those, we have to keep experiencing the opposite. And we've really seen that playing out over human history. This person's right and this person's wrong. That's not to say that there aren't human behaviors we'd like to eliminate. Of course there is. Of course there's a whole set of human behaviors where we harm ourselves and others, either psychologically, emotionally, or physically, that we would like to let go of. But if we can look at those without labeling them, without going into the opposites, then naturally they're going to cease to express themselves. If we get stuck in this spiritual duality of compassion, love, and wisdom is right, and everything else is wrong, then we're just going to keep going around this circle. You could call them higher or lower human behaviors, you know, not sort of labeling them so intensely. And as we step out of those really strict, heavy labels of right and wrong, then naturally what we value is right, loving, wise, open, kind, caring, all of that is going to come to the forefront anyway. Every single body mind in the whole human collective and the whole of existence itself is evolving anyway. And if we can look at it non-judgmentally, yes, there's behaviors that we've personally moved beyond. We wouldn't harm anyone else. And we're doing our best not to harm ourselves by judging ourselves in Satsang. If we look at someone else that's still doing that and say that's wrong, then we've gone back into this cycle of opposites again. Can you see that? Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can look at something and go, it'll be nice when that stops happening. We'll really be moving forward as a species. But we don't have to go into separation around it in our thoughts. Of course, we all want that. Of course, we want a planet where nobody hurts anyone else. But the way to get that fastest is to not separate yourself from anybody. Because whatever, you know, we've all been here for hundreds of thousands of incarnations anyway. Body minds have come and gone. And we've all played every role we can play as a human being, from the good to the bad to the downright ugly. So we've played all those roles, and that's where we want to come out of it now, out of duality. The effect of duality, at least.
Thank you. It was nice. Is it the organ? I'm playing only duality. Yes. My belief that we are as a total, as a one mind, we are actually not at our highest level. But how I see us, for example, in many hundreds years ago, it was a public execution. And the people enjoyed, even they were bringing children to that, how do I say, and right now we even cannot imagine that we can do that. I cannot say to my neighbor, let's go.
What we're doing here now, not in this satsang, but as a society, how we treat each other 100 years from now, that will be unthinkable. Wow, we actually did stuff like that, you know?
Yes.
We actually use violence against each other and things. So consciousness, the self, the infinite self is evolving always through every species, isn't it? You know,
yes, so,
with no start and no end to that. We tend to fixate on human beings because they're the ones that do most of the things we would like to get rid of.
Yeah.
I mean, animals would never treat each other in the way that human beings do.
Yeah.
But that is a consequence or a downside to having this brain that can recognize what the source of the brain is, what we really are. So
yeah, so we are going to better. unless if our technology, because our awareness is, in my opinion, much behind than our technology. If with our technology we want to destroy ourselves as a human,
One
what
human
will
being,
happen with that?
one human being who is totally free, like totally free, living free, is enough to override the effects of everyone else's thinking and separation. The self is infinitely powerful. Let's just take a moment to really weigh the infinite power coming through one body-mind vehicle when it recognizes itself compared to the power of 7.5 or 8 billion thoughts. A separate being, someone who thinks they're separate, is operating on the power of thought. One being that's free, just one, is enough to counteract everything else that's going on in human society. And this is why throughout history we've never actually managed to annihilate ourselves, no matter how much we've tried. There's always been someone on this planet who's free. So now we're safer, ironically, than we've ever been from that, because no matter how it looks, no matter what the media says, because there are more beings, individual body-mind vehicles living free than ever before with the advent of the internet and things like that, like this, like it's happening right now, isn't it? So
What a wonderful message. Thank you.
good place to
Thank you so much. Very empowering, very enlightening.
Otherwise, if you listen to the media, it's all doom and gloom, isn't it? You know, and yes, there are things we need to sort out. I'm not saying there isn't. You know, we as a species, we've got a lot to mature in certain areas, but let's not believe in the doom and gloom so much. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, that's a good place to leave it for today. Some deep conversations there. Thank you. Namaste. I just want to say before we finish, not to underestimate we were just talking about it, but it needs to be said, not to underestimate the effect of your own awakening on humanity as a whole, because you are not a separate being waking up to the truth. You are the infinite self recognizing itself. And that isn't happening in one place. Like when I realized the truth of my being, it didn't happen here. It happened here, everywhere. And if you ponder that for just a little while, there'll be some atomic explosion that happens inside you. And you won't ever fear for the future again in that way. So thank you.